Hey everyone, Sycra here, and today I'm joined by my special guests, Bob Meatbag,
Hey.
uh, OzJ,
Hello.
Flavia,
Hi.
and me. And I'm going to be drawing today, I guess. Um, why am I going to be drawing today? Two reasons. First reason is okay. So I did that thing. That last video I did was uh, like people seem to respond to my scribbly thing, and I thought maybe I'll try scribbling and drawing on a stream while talking, and see how that goes. But a much more honest reason is Mr. Bob Meatbag normally draws, but he is currently disabled. His hand is not working. He had a terrible, terrible accident. Bob, how did you damage your hand? How did you damage your hand?
Oh, that's how you're gonna set it up, huh?
How did you damage your hand, Bob?
I damaged my hand by playing Darkest Dungeon.
What's that, Bob? What's that? Can you...
I will share screens.
Okay.
I will share. Let me know when you see it. Do you see me sharing screens?
Hold on. No, I don't yet. It's gonna take a while. Yeah, I guess I do. Oh, that's your screen. You're looking at my screen. Okay,
Yeah,
got it. I was really confused.
Okay.
Like, oh, no, you're not sharing. That's just me. That's my screen.
It just shows your screen.
I kept clicking on your name. Like, why is it only showing my screen?
Okay, so this game, if you can see it, okay, is it sharing?
No, like, stop looking at the Google window.
Yeah, I just clicked the Darkest Dungeon.
It's not showing the cursor, but it's not showing the game.
What? No. Okay. Hold on.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. It's doing it.
Can you hear me now?
Hi, OzJ.
Oh, who's that?
That's OzJ. Just close the test manager. You're good, Jeff. You're good.
Okay. So this everybody is.
Close the task manager.
I did.
Well, like close it, like.
Oh, okay. So
on the bottom of the taskbar. There you go. You're good now.
No, I think there's a delay. Hold on.
Yeah. Probably there is. That would make sense.
Hold on. Let me stop screen sharing. Let me hide my humiliation for a little while longer.
All right. Hey, OzJ, how are you?
I am fine. Here is my accent. Here you go. Now Flavia doesn't have to copy it.
Yay!
What kind of accent is that? It sounds Turkish.
Actually, it isn't. But Bosnian, it should be German. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm not German, so I can't have a German accent, right? But I'm from Yugoslavia, so it should be a Bosnian accent. Yet Turkish people said that Bosnian people said that my Bosnian sounds Turkish. So maybe somewhere I sound Turkish for some reason, even though I'm not related to it.
I was just trying to be stupid, but now it's real.
I took it seriously.
I made it real. I tried.
I made it very real.
Cool. For people who don't know who OzJ is, he's the author of the webcomic Freelance, which is this comic, and
Yes.
I personally think it's really funny. If you search for OzJ, OSJEY or O5JEY, whichever OS.
It's with an S, but
I guess OSJEY. Then you can see the rest of this image.
nice mate. Well done.
And so that's his thing. It's called Freelance. And Cool. Yeah. So you're the guy who did that. So Bob.
Yeah. Do you see? Is it there?
It's still showing my screen, but yes.
Okay, hold on. Maybe there's a delay, so it's like.
Could you Alt-Tab it? Like
Alt?
Alt-Tab until you.
Alt-Tab. Okay, I'm back to this.
If you hold Alt and then click Tab, you can cycle through the different windows.
Okay, hold on. Let me try something else. Okay. Do you see it now?
This is taking way longer than I thought. It's black. It's probably loading.
No, I'm at the menu right now.
Oh, then no, I don't see it.
Is he going to play a game or what?
I don't see it.
Well, this might not work.
No, it will, but okay, never mind. There, it's showing up. It's showing up.
Okay, it's here now. Like,
yes,
you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So do you see my mouse moving?
Yes. How are you moving that?
I'm moving that on a tablet. So this is the game that I've been playing for. I haven't been
It's not
playing
showing
it
anymore. You have to I think you have to click it for it to show.
I clicked it.
Oh, yeah, it's not going to show. Oh well.
No, okay. I don't think this is going to work then.
All right. Well, I don't have to show my thing then.
Okay.
Oh,
Back to the.
What if you click campaign? Why don't you just click like stuff?
Oh, campaign.
Yeah, because it shows like for a second, then and it goes away.
Okay. Do you see anything?
No.
It's only when I bring up the taskbar and then it goes on a blue screen on my end that you guys seem to be able to see it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You know.
All right.
Oh well.
Yeah,
I guess we could just talk about it then.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you could take a screenshot of things because it's loading now. Like I see it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me using the task. Okay, I'll just use the
Windowed?
Hold on. There might be a way. There might be a way to do this. Just right.
There might be a way to do this.
Okay. Meanwhile, I guess I should draw stuff.
Yeah. Just go ahead with the stream.
I'll screen share as well.
Oh, you're gonna draw too?
Yeah, probably something random that I'm not sure if it will look good, but yeah.
So. Oh no, my tablet thing is not working. I have to restart my thing. All right.
So Sycra, did you want to hear something about League of Legends, or what were you guys talking about earlier?
We haven't got to that yet, but we will. We will after.
If whatever I'm trying to do works, then we might be able
Can you make it, Bob? Can you put it in windowed mode?
I'm trying to find a window, like just so it doesn't take up the entire screen. I'm trying to find that version.
Yeah.
All right. So.
We have technological difficulties.
Yeah, we do have those. So I wanted to thank people for all the kind comments on my last video. It means a lot to yes, and I think it's cool.
Oh, okay, this might work.
Okay.
But I have no idea.
Where can I see the chat?
The chat? I'll have to copy and paste it again.
Yep, it's working now.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
Oh.
There we go. Time for it. Okay, so.
Okay. So the reason why I've been out of commission and I'm not drawing on stream right now is because of this game. Now, Darkest Dungeon came out quite a while ago, at least half a year or maybe a year ago or something. And then I've been playing it on the keyboard and mouse. And the thing is, I draw really, like when I press down on the page when I'm drawing, I press really hard. And when I play games and type, I also do that as well. And basically, I was pressing so hard, and I was playing this game for so long, that I screwed up my hands.
How long have you
started out
played it,
as this.
though? It couldn't be that long, right? You haven't played for that long.
Oh, in the beginning, I was playing it every single day.
Click on the campaign. Show how long you played.
Okay. So this is one of my friend's accounts, but this is mine. And basically, I am on week 503, and what that means is that every time I go into a dungeon or I go into a level, that counts as 1 week. So I have played 503 levels in Darkest Dungeon. Now, let me show you the characters that I have amassed and the fortunes that I've amassed.
This would explain why it was worth it to lose your drawing ability.
Yeah.
No, this is a town event that has me very excited. Now, this is how much money I have. I didn't use cheat codes. I use this purely by just playing the levels. I have 2,441,877 gold. I have 253 busts, 591 portraits, 904 deeds, 1,325 crests, and I haven't used any of them because all my buildings are leveled up. Now, Sycra, can you tell me how much gold you had?
Okay, so when Bob first Bob gave me this game, Darkest Dungeon, he bought it for me. So
you had a friend to play with.
Yeah, but it's a single player game as far as I know, right?
Yeah.
So what I did is I played a bit, and I really did not enjoy myself. I thought this game, I do not like this game. So I thought I would troll Bob, and so I didn't know how much he had done, but I loaded up Cheat Engine, and I just gave myself 1 million gold because I thought that was absurd. That would be just insane amounts. I'll have 1 million gold, and then I'll be like, oh, hey, Bob, been playing Darkest Dungeon. I'm so great. Look at how far I've gotten. And I just put the most, what I thought was stupid amounts of experience and all this stuff in the cheat engine, and then I showed Bob my screen, oh yeah, hey, check it out. And then he's like, oh wow, you've got quite a lot of gold. You're almost as much as I have.
I just thought, you got a lot of gold really quickly. You must have been really looking up some strategies and experimenting. So I thought he was pretty good, because that's how I did it. I just grinded my way through all the dungeons, went through all the repetitive motions. I made up strategies to maximize the amount of gold I had, and then I got to around 1 million or so. So when I saw that, it's oh, you must have experimented. Well, no, use the cheat engine to troll me, but little did I know.
I don't know if the joke's on me or not.
We're both pretty confused about it.
Do you have any trinkets though?
Yeah, I have all the ancestral trinkets. I actually have triple the amount of one of these that I'm supposed to have, which is a glitch, I think. And I don't think many people have as many duplicates as I do, because I'm only supposed to have 1 ancestor's coat, but I have 3. So those are the ancestral trinkets. And then there's the legendary trinkets, which I usually have double or triple of So for the leper's mask, I have 3 leper's masks, but I have 4 blasphemous vials. I have 4 Book of Sanity, and I usually have 2 or 3 of everything, because I just like the idea of my characters having an armory, so that they won't have to worry about anything when they go into the dungeons. And when I watch other people play Darkest Dungeon, because that's what I do now, they usually sell out their trinkets, and they don't have either duplicates or triplets of what I have. So when I see it, I just think, wow, you guys are so poor. I have an armory. They have sometimes they might have 400,000 if those are the rare ones, but usually they have around 60,000 or so gold. And so I'm just thinking, wow, you don't know how to save up your gold. You don't know how to maximize your profits. So that's what I have there. All my buildings are leveled up. They're all full. They have everything. As you can see, it's a maximum.
Mine had that too, but again, I was cheating.
Yeah. I even got the new upgrades, which allows me to have experienced recruits instead of ones that start with 0. All my characters I'm trying to go after very specific quirks. Like, you know how sometimes in games you level up your characters and you might get specific equipment that's like, oh, I'm going to equip them with this, and that's going to make them really powerful. Well, the version of that here is quirks. So that means if sometimes the characters end up with random quirks, some of them positive, some of them negative. So the negative ones is like this: enlightened. He's religious now. He will only pray in this place, the Abbey, for stress relief. But he has positive quirks as well: Eldritch Hater, Cove, Adventurer, Resilient, Warren's Adventurer, Warren's Explorer, that kind of stuff. And I locked in his quirk for Eldritch Hater because my end goal is to go into the Darkest Dungeon, which is the hardest level there is, which destroyed my A-team when it first came out. So I needed to adapt to the monsters there, and the monsters in there are Eldritch Hater, and they're Beast Haters, and then there's humans as well. But what Eldritch Hater does is that it relieves, it makes it so I take less stress damage, and also I do more damage to Eldritch types. And in this game, you have a stress meter. If you get stressed, your characters goes insane, and they start doing all that shit and screwing up your party line, and then they might not take orders from you, so they'll screw you up and they'll kill you. So basically, with these quirks, I'm maximizing their results so that when they go into the dungeon, they'll have the least amount of things to worry about. They can do the most damage, and yeah. And the thing is, the problem with the quirks is that they are very random. So there's only one level in this entire game that guarantees you a positive quirk if you encounter a specific interactable object, which is a sacrificial altar in the well. And when you encounter it, if you have holy water, I will show you. Or actually, no, it won't let me. Ah, crap. I'm going to have to bring lower level characters into this. I'll just bring the random ones so I can show you the items that I can bring in there.
The items. Yeah.
So if you have holy water and you use it on this interactable object, it gives you a random quirk. And that's how I've been able to get the quirks that I want. Like things like, hold on, let me go to this character. Things like Eldritch Hater or Hard Skin or Beast Hater or Natural Swings, which gives positive quirks. The problem is that it's random. So most of the time, I'm not able to get the quirks that I want. So I have to go back in there repeatedly over and over and again to get the quirks that I want so I can go to the Darkest Dungeon and beat the game.
Okay. That was a very in-depth explanation.
I'm sorry if I got too much into it.
No, it's good. It's good. You are using your life appropriately.
And because of this, I am not able to draw now.
Thank you. What happened?
So I was playing on the mouse and keyboard, and I just started to notice that my hands are becoming stiff and they're becoming really painful. And then this never happened before, so I thought, oh, it'll go away. It'll go away. I kept playing, and it kept getting worse. And then eventually, I stopped playing on the mouse and keyboard, anyways. And then I moved on to the tablet. And then for a while, it was okay, but eventually, the tablet started to hurt my arm as well. And now I'm using an Xbox controller to navigate my computer.
That got so intense.
And it's gotten so bad that I've actually moved on to my 3DS to browse the internet because it hurts my hands less. So that's my Darkest Dungeon adventure.
Your dungeon's really dark, Jeff.
Yeah. That is. That's why I'm not trying. Is there anyone else among us that would like to share their shame? Because now's the moment.
Okay, so I told Bob that if he shared his Darkest Dungeon thing, I would share my thing. But
sharing craft chasing shadows.
But okay, so it's this game, and I used to play it years ago. Like not anymore. I haven't touched it.
Gemcraft.
How much experience did you have?
I
How much
don't know.
gold did you have?
I don't, okay, it was over. It was like quadrillions. Like it just.
A quadrillion gold? Oh, you thought I had a gold pile, huh?
No, you don't
have
have
a
it.
gold pile.
No, it's not the gold. It's the fucking experience. Like, okay, so like this number here. See, I don't know if you can see it because I don't have the game and I don't like. Anyway, see how it's like 90. Say this one says 97,211. Mine was like all numbers.
Did it ever go off the meter at one point?
It might have, but it doesn't matter because the point is this. The point is this. I can draw fine. I never got injured. Like, I used Voltaren when my hands started to hurt. I made sure I did exercises, and
better play Gemcraft.
and I didn't do it instead of work. Like, I did work, and then I would do it in my break, just play a little Gemcraft, and it wasn't, like, whatever. Okay, you laugh, Flavia. How many years did you play Warcraft?
It wasn't Warcraft, it was I played Warcraft every time I had an exam session, and I would get too stressed out, so I would play Warcraft or...
World of Warcraft.
No, that was before World of Warcraft.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, I started WoW when Vanilla came out, right when it was released, so I don't know what year that was, maybe 2004? 3? Something? And then I played, and I played, and I played, and then I gave up. And for a while I was in university, I would play Warcraft 3 right before exam sessions to de-stress, and I would play and play and play until it was the day before the exam, and then I would start studying.
Classic.
But I think it was 2007 when I started World of Warcraft again with my then boyfriend, and I was playing on a private server, and I was super depressed. I was just in-game all day long. I was on a private server, and eventually just being in-game wasn't enough, so I joined the server team. And I started working on it for free.
You became a chat moderator, right?
No, I was not a chat moderator. I was a forum administrator.
Oh no!
I was handling all the testers for the bugs and stuff, and I was doing my PvP game, and I was doing raiding, and I had a guild, and I perfected my own style of playing.
What were you using? A rogue as a...
Yeah, I was using a rogue to tank, because rogues are usually, for whoever doesn't know, rogues are a DPS class, so you just go in and you hit stuff and you do damage, and that's your rogue. But for me, I was like, no, that's not for me. I will tank with a rogue, and usually you have armored characters who have like shields and like heavy armor, plate, whatever, and then you tank with those characters. But I was like, no, I'm gonna dodge this shit. I'm gonna dodge the shit out of this. So I looked for all the super obsolete gear that would get me to 100% dodge, 100% passive dodge, not just like, oh, temporary. And I was tanking it. And then with a rogue, I tanked another boss, a raid boss. This is a boss that is supposed to be tanked and killed by 25 people at once. And yeah, there's that.
You should say how you played with the 3 windows open at once.
Oh, that's later on. I was playing WoW with a tablet, a drawing tablet, so instead of a mouse, and that was okay. And then, because that wasn't enough for me, I started just doing my own raids, and how I was doing it, I had 3 characters, each in their own window, and I was all tabbing with them.
I'm not alone.
But I never damaged myself. Only emotionally. Only emotionally.
Okay, Osjay, do you have any shame to share?
Oh, any shame to share? Guess it's easy to say that I'm currently pretty addicted to League of Legends. 2,500 hours in, a little more, and
How much time is 2,500 hours?
I don't know. Doesn't it say 10,000 hours? Let me look for it. It's I think it's couple months of my lifetime.
Wow.
No, never mind that. It's only 108 days of your life, it says.
Full
That's
days.
that's more than a couple of months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no sleeping, no anything, no
And,
cooking.
and I
no-
started-
Just
and I
for
started-
comparison, I want to make a comparison. I played Darkest Dungeon for 341 hours.
Oh, okay, so yeah.
I don't even know what my playing time in WoW was. Probably.
9,999.
If any high rank League players are watching, hit me up. I'm currently in Gold 3, so yeah, please carry me. Anyone out there, I will kill for Elo. Come on, guys. There must be a diamond or challenger out there.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Wow. Oh, well, that made me feel better.
Yeah,
There you go.
I expected you to like play at least as much. Now I feel like I've been playing more than all of
Yeah,
you
but-
guys together.
But Osjay, did you get any injuries?
No injuries. Maybe my ass hurt by like sitting 9 hours
That's
straight or
okay.
something.
How would you-
I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. Did you get any injuries, Flavio?
No, I did not. I told you, only emotional ones, only depression. Like, I would log out of the game and I would look around. It's like, I don't want to be in this. Just go back to the game.
Oh, jeez Louise. You know what they say? Loser, loser, loser.
I wasn't drawing at all almost during that time either. I started drawing one time when we had a power outage.
Oh, wow, wow.
My server was down.
I just want everyone to know that I wasn't like playing Darkest Dungeon every day for every hour. I just wake up and I played like one level or two. If it was a short level, I would play two. If it was medium or long ones, those are the only ones I played. And then maybe some at the end of the day. But I still drew. I am not the worst offender here.
Oh.
Well, that wasn't that cathartic, everybody.
Some people in the chat exposed their like their rank. So thank you, Sycra. I maybe got some people to carry me to the top now. One guy's plat 2 says add me. Okay, I'll do that.
So this has become a thing. What is the moral of this story?
Don't actually ever start.
Okay, Osri,
Not
the
even
chat
once.
asks what server you're on.
European, yeah, UV. Someone says lol equals crack. That's true. It's true.
Man.
I don't
I
know. I
guess
couldn't
the
get
moral of
into
the
WoW. I
story
tried
is-
playing it, but it wasn't my thing.
But in the end, I don't know. Like such games inspire people to draw. Is that so? Only if it's only bad if it like takes your time so much that you actually end up not drawing. Like
How much time passed between the chapters of your comic?
I think an entire year from chapter 2 to 3.
And how did you spend that year?
In the mountains, training for the next chapter.
For the next champion release.
Maybe that.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's Right now I'm drawing, so that's good.
Well, everybody, I guess you know of our shame now.
Yeah.
The secrets.
Someone from the chat asks, "What meat pack? Why don't you make more videos?"
Why don't I make more videos? My hands are screwed up.
Back, why? Why are your hands screwed up? Can you explain?
I think I already did.
Oh,
I think I already did, Mr. 2,300 hours.
2,500.
What 2,500?
2,500.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, there you go.
Oh god.
So I feel pretty good about myself.
It's good to know you're not the worst.
The moral
There's
of the
always
story.
someone who's worse.
Oh, you think you're the deep end, huh? Oh, you think you're an addict?
Usually it's the other way around.
But actually, like I think 800 hours are the average. But there's a page where you can look how many hours other people have played, and there's a bunch of people that played like 12,000 and stuff. Once it got released, and yeah, I think they don't exist in this reality any longer. They're on the Rift. They're not
They
here.
have no life.
The game is their life, so that's a life too, isn't it?
Oh. Any questions from the chat?
How did Sycra draw that?
This?
Yeah.
You just do like stuff, and then move, and then it turns into a thing. Like this. That's how I did it.
There's a chat question. What is going on?
This is an art stream, and we were talking about art. Bob is working very hard right now on his next video. What else? We're not losers.
No.
Any more questions?
Not really.
Uh,
Can they see our discussion? Yes, I can see your discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty interesting face you're making.
yeah.
Yeah.
Make it a clown. Why not?
Okay. All right. I'm the Bob Meatbag of today. Alright, so what do clowns have?
You don't
Tears?
have to make. You don't have to make the noses round. You can make it sharp.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They have sort of like teardrops on the top and bottom of their eyes, and then
Okay.
kind of black.
Oh, I'm doing the Bob Meatbag clown. Okay. Okay, so the...
Yeah, I thought that's what we were going for.
Sure. Yeah, sure. And they're bald?
Yeah, they're bald. They have no eyebrows.
Okay.
Their eyes are kind of black with light shining through them.
Okay.
Like the entire eye is black, yeah.
Here's a question. Do you have any tips for drawing backgrounds?
Bob, do you have any tips for drawing backgrounds? I'm not that you can demonstrate it, but I don't really draw backgrounds. So.
For drawing backgrounds, the way I do it is kind of different. For me, I need to know what I want to draw first. So like that's my main problem with drawing backgrounds is that like I don't know what to draw. But when I do, I usually just I create the composition first to make sure it looks good, and then I insert the perspective into it. And that's how I get the image. Because the problem with focusing too much on the perspective first is that you get stiff, and then you lose the composition, and it doesn't become as appealing as it could be.
Okay, I think that's a good answer.
Yeah.
I
Do
agree.
you have any good tips for getting out of the procrastinating mindset?
Getting the procrastinating mindset. It depends on the person. Like for me, one of the reasons why I procrastinate is that I can't concentrate for too long. So I figured because before I went for like I would try to go for 1 hour and then take a break, but that wasn't working. So I changed it to I would work for 30 minutes and then I would take a break for like 30 minutes, and then that seemed to work because I always feel as though I didn't do enough. It's like around the 30 when I take a break around the 30-minute mark, I feel as though I could keep going, and then when I take a break, I feel refreshed, and then I go back to the work and I still want to do it, and then that's how I figured it out. But that, I think the main thing is for this person to try is experimentation. Like stick with trying something. It's sort of like try working for 1 hour and then stick to it even though it's hard, so you can know whether or not you really respond to that time limit. And then if it doesn't work, try another time limit. But yeah, that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I think that's a very good advice. I also think it's good to sort of try to look at your life and figure out why. There's usually a reason you're procrastinating. There's usually something you're avoiding, something you're afraid of. Maybe it's you're not drawing what you really want to draw. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you think you have some issues with maybe anatomy or composition or whatever. It's like, awareness is always good.
Yeah, because sometimes it might not just be because it's like there's the procrastination thing is a problem in and of itself, but then when you add on top of that like fear or hesitation of doing other things, so it's just like, oh, I don't want to do perspective because it's difficult, then it's sort of like you just add on top of the procrastination. So yeah, I suppose just trying to figure out what causes the procrastination is also a good way of tackling it itself.
Yeah. They have to work in conjunction as well, because if you're overexerting yourself, you're just making it hard for yourself.
Yeah, I think
you'll be more likely to procrastinate.
Yeah, I think finding out about your own limit is pretty. It's a good thing to know. It's like whether or not you have a lot of stamina or if you don't have a lot of stamina, because that's the case with me. I can't, like I said, I couldn't work for 1 hour because I would just get burnt out, and then I would just go into the cycle of procrastination. And even if you don't have a lot of stamina, and you figured it out, don't try to force yourself too much into thinking, oh, I need to increase my stamina right away. It's not going to work. You're going to experience burnout. Finding out your own limit and then experimenting with that limit, and I think that's the important thing here. If you experiment with your limit, then you will get a better, I think, result out of that, instead of just sort of like going, well, I either can't do this or I can't, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Any tips for making the same colors look consistent in different environments?
There's a lot of ways you can cheat that, because like you can just use the hue saturation slider, for instance. Let's just put down colors. Let's see. I'll just color this person. Oh, I colored someone else I've already done. Yeah, I'll color this. No, this one? Yeah, this one. It's easiest. Alright, so what's this not person, not dog person? Definitely not.
It's Eldritch Hater, by the way, not Hunter.
Oops. Alright. Let me hide my shame. Thanks. My life has improved. I can just feel it.
Yeah.
I'm becoming a better person.
Yeah.
Okay, so so when I pick colors, I always think, I think I mentioned this, I like shift the values and stuff. Let's see, what color shirt would you want? Not Bob.
Black.
Black. All right. No, what I didn't do is I didn't pick a original color, so let me do that. Let me pick a background color. That's really helpful, is to pick a starting color, starting tone. That's pretty not great. maybe something like that. So in this world, it feels very blue, very cold. So I'm gonna pick something that looks black, but isn't necessarily. Maybe something like this, and that'll read as a black, even though it's a orangey brown thing. You don't have to. Whatever. Okay, so all you need to do if your colors are right is, or not, I mean, this isn't all you need to do, but it's one way, is just pull U and there, and shift. That's one way of doing it. The other way is, like a cheat way, is you go to photo filter, and you, the way I did that is you go down here in Photoshop and you click this button, and then there's like photo filter, and you can, change it to pretty much whatever you want, and then increase the density or decrease it, and it will, like, maybe this is a nighttime scene, and now it feels pretty nighttimey. And an additional thing is, like, add 2 of them. I don't need 2, I just need 1. And delete. So additionally, let's say I don't want him, or I want him in a nighttime-ish environment, but there's some light coming through. Like, I'll just show you. So what you can do is you go into the layer mask, and you can actually paint out. Like, let's say there's a strange warm light coming here. What you can do is then paint in, like, where it's hitting the person, and revealing the other color scheme, and can look like a thing. So now he's, you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it, but you can do that as well.
All right, so that's a process.
And then another one you can do, which is even easier and more effective, is you create a levels thing, and you just increase it so that it's like, oh, this is if it was blown out, and then you can make it all black in the mask area, and then do the same thing, but paint it in. So let's say, like, this is the highlight area, and I'm using a pencil because I was trying to be all, whatever, fancy. But see, it works. How it feels instant shadows without worrying about color. But yeah, that's sort of a cheat. The other ways, you have to really learn your fundamentals and try to get things to look right. So this is the light source.
Yeah, I think.
And these are just adjustment layers. See?
Yeah.
It's not actually painting out stuff. I find it's very interesting with colored light, but it's not something I've yet mastered or even gotten close to, because it's tricky. I have like LED lights that keep changing colors, and I'm looking at the environment and how they change colors. It's very extreme, so I don't yet understand it fully. Okay, more?
Yeah. How should I practice painting if I don't have the time for rendering for hours? What would be the painting equivalent of sketching?
Speed painting.
Thumbnails as well, right?
Uh-huh.
Just do thumbnails.
Mm-hmm. And the way you do thumbnails is, let me see. Like, usually, if you just start with like this shape, and then you get this, you have creases here, but we're really not really focused on that. We're focused on this part. There's like a area here, and yeah, like so. It's a pretty easy way of doing thumbnails.
When stuck on something, do you think it's better to use reference and figure it out yourself, or look up tutorials or art from other artists?
Oh. What was the question again?
When you're stuck on something that you're drawing, do you go to reference? Do you look it up? Or do you look for tutorials from other artists on how to do it? Or do you try and figure it out yourself?
I think before I would used to look up reference. I still kind of do now, just because I don't have everything in terms of a visual. Like for example, I'm starting to understand clothes, but I did that one by looking at it myself and trying to figure it out myself. What looking at reference does, well, that's basically looking at reference, but there's also looking at reference in real life, because then you can really see how it moves and you can experiment with how it works, and that's what I did with clothes. When looking up other artists, what you're looking up is their interpretation. You're looking up the process of how they're doing it, so that's also an option. Yeah. I would say, like, I observe reality, I look up reference on the internet, and I've also looked at how other artists do it. I think I'm doing more looking up at reference and observing reality on my own now, but I think that's just because of my progression. So for people who are just starting out, they might not understand how to interpret reality completely. In that case, it's completely fine to just look up reference or look up how other people do it. You know, and even later on, I still look up at reference and how other people do their own drawings, because it's still information. But it's a good idea to keep in mind to not copy completely. You know.
What do you think about tracing?
Tracing?
Yeah.
I've
Ongoing
done
discussion in chat
Okay.
about tracing, whether
I've
it's
done it. I think I've done it once, and it was interesting. I haven't really done it again, because what it does is that I start to figure out how, especially if you're doing a drawing from another artist, you figure out how they're doing things in a way. It's sort of like, okay, what information were they trying to put in the line? What were they thinking of? What does this bump mean? What does that line mean? That kind of stuff. That's what I got from tracing. But yeah, I guess from what little I know, I see it as a learning tool. It's like, okay, it's something to figure out what somebody is doing. So yeah.
I'm tracing Tracer. What do you think about that?
That's very meta. So meta.
So meta, too much. Too much meta. Has anyone played Uncharted 4? Of you guys?
No.
Anyone? No one? Okay. They did something very meta. You played
Oh, I
PlayStation
know what you're
1
talking
and-
about.
Yeah.
You shouldn't spoil things.
Yeah, I'm a big spoiler guy.
Oh, I don't know.
But I did not spoil it yet. You saved
Okay,
it. You saved it.
okay.
How can a kid in high school start setting up for a viable career in the art industry?
Practicing drawing.
Loving it.
I think I suppose you could look up some information on the art industry, but I would just say just figure out what they would like to. Just experiment with drawing first, like figure out what they'd like to do. Because for me, it's sort of like, when I first started discovering about the art industry, I actually thought I'd never make it in the art industry, so there goes my thinking. But I thought I would become a concept artist, but it turns out that, concept art really wasn't for me. I think maybe that's the best thing that they can do. Just start experimenting, start drawing, figuring out what they like to do. And if they really do like something like, let's say, illustration or concept art, then figure out more about that type of job and then practice for it.
There's this question: how do you motivate yourself to go out of your comfort zone? People say that you need to get out of it, but how? How should you enjoy it? There's something I've got with these questions of, I've seen a lot of people ask, how do I stay motivated? How do I do this? It's like, if you're going to someone for insight on your own personal self and your own personal psychology, then to me that says you have not confronted yourself enough. You have not done enough soul searching. And I think it's like, you need to do this. You need to be aware of yourself, because what you're doing in art is you're channeling your own self, your own soul, your own mind, your own feelings. It's very personal. You can't just expect to fully take on somebody else's mindset. You need to be aware of what questions you're really asking. What's like for somebody to be for Naoki Kawai, you ask this question, and it's to me I would ask you, what is your background? And I would urge you to ask this of yourself. What is your background? What is your context? Where do you come from? Why are you not enjoying art? Why do you feel the need to stay in your comfort zone? Like, what motivates you? Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of somebody in particular who might have said something bad about your art at one point? It could be one of many things, but you need to be aware of them. It's,
Yeah. That's
there's
a
a technical part to, oh, how do you go out of your comfort zone? Which is like, oh, I guess Bob could explain it better.
Oh, yeah. In terms of the technicals, well, it sort of goes back to what you're saying, right? It's like when you confront yourself, that's when you really start making progress. And then the technical aspect of it, like I could tell you what I did, but then what I did might not work for you. You know?
Yeah.
So, and the way the fundamental way of doing it is just that I just did it by experimenting, or at least subconsciously experimenting. Like, for example, what I did with the 30-minute work and the 30-minute break. I did that because I knew that the 1 hour work time was not working for me, so I switched to something else. And then by doing that, I just started. It sort of eliminates what doesn't work, and then it's only by doing it yourself that you really start figuring out, okay, what works for me and what doesn't. But at the core of it, it is about sort of like, well, you know, what are you not doing, or what are you doing, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think especially if you're starting out with drawing, or if you've been doing that for maybe a year or two, it's very important to focus on your strength as a person. Because if you want to do this as a job, you're going to need that strength. Otherwise, you will just crumble under the pressure. You can't really be sort of insecure. It will wear you down. It will empty you entirely.
Yeah.
Which style should I master for concept art? Cartoonish, anime, realistic?
That's a strange question.
Yeah, it's a very
I feel
strange
like
question.
it's just it doesn't really matter. Like there are so many different styles of games that you could have any style.
Yeah, I think it really depends on what you're aiming for. And again, this is sort of indicative for me of somebody who doesn't really have a focus in their goal. Like, who do you want to work for? What do you want to work on? Fine. If you don't want to work for a company, maybe you want to work on your own project. What do you envision? What is your purpose? What is your end goal? Imagine yourself, assume everything goes as you would like it to go. And 10 years from now, where are you? What are you doing? What is your drawing? Try to visualize what you will do, and then you'll get a better understanding of what style should you master. Because I think there are games who have cartoonish concept art. The Japanese games will have anime concept art. Realistic games will use that style. So it's really dependent on where you want to go.
I mean, if you don't know that, then I think it just sort of goes back to sort of like, well, what do you really want?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There's such a trend in people that I've heard lately of where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? And asking this of someone else. And it's very unaware, and it sort of will screw you over in the long run.
I suppose it sort of takes away the responsibility, right?
Yeah,
Because then it's
yeah,
just like,
yeah.
well, I don't have to confront myself. I don't have to take responsibility for these hard questions. And then just like, oh, if I pass this on to somebody else, then it's like it's easier.
Yeah, it's easier, and I'm always looking for a figurehead. I don't know, like a senpai, like they say.
Senpai.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, tell me who I am. This is basically it. This is like the crux of it. Tell me who I am. Please tell me where I'm going.
Yeah.
There's this confusion, and there's a problem when you sort of enable your own confusion instead of shedding light on it.
Mm-hmm.
Not constructive.
Yeah. I suppose that's what it is. Just sort of like you're looking for somebody else to do the work for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's impossible, no matter where you No matter what you do, you have to do your own part.
Yeah, because if you want to be an artist, you're putting yourself into your work.
Oh. Here's the thing. Tons of people ask questions about art school versus self-taught, and I'm in both currently. And it's like haven't been like self-taught for 3 years and now in art school. So there's no difference. You're in the end you go home and you have to draw. Like, and you can't, while you're drawing, you can't ask anyone to help you. Like you can finish a drawing and then show it to people, but in the very moment when you're drawing, you have to like what you do. Otherwise it will be very hard to keep doing this for hours. So when people always ask other people for advice, I don't know. I'm wondering, like,
I'm fine with people asking advice, but I think what it is that it's asking advice without no thought about the question.
Yeah, and
like
without
they ask,
having thought about it themselves.
Yeah. They ask very like the question with the what style is best for concept art, like cartoony or realistic and that kind of stuff. That's a question that can sort of, it's like that's something that that can be solved on their own, and then they will arrive to a better conclusion if they do it on their own. And it's sort of like with art, especially when you're drawing, you're sort of drawing how you interpret reality, like what shapes do you use or what line you use. That's all dependent on your conscious decision and your subconscious decision. So it's one of the reasons why it's so personal is because it's pretty much how you see the world. It's what you prefer. So when you ask somebody else, oh, what should I do? Why should I do this and that kind of stuff? It's like, no, only you will understand what you prefer. Kind of stuff.
Yes.
Why do you think it's such a trend to be so dependent on?
I'm not sure. I mean, because I, in a way, I went through this phase myself. I'm not sure if it's just something that's normal or if that's something that's more prevalent now. Like, what do you think? Is this sort of thing that's been around for a while?
Yeah, I think it's been around for some years and it's getting worse. I think in the media that I have seen, you are sort of taught to be more and more childlike. You are taught to be more and more just looking up to, I don't know, stars or personalities and stuff. And it's like, follow a model, do this because somebody else does this. Don't question yourself. Just sort of find your rails, get on your rails, and keep going. And this is not really conducive to original art or really strong people. It's not just about, because you could be, I don't know, a carpenter, and you could be miserable, you could be depressed, you could become violent, this is an unexamined life. No matter what profession you're in, if you are not aware of your goals, if you're not aware of what makes you tick, you will develop frustration, you will have bottled up rage against something you're not really aware of. And this is why psychologists make a lot of money. This is why corporations make a lot of money, because they sell you things to distract yourself from questioning yourself, questioning, is this really what I want? Is this really where I want my life to go? Is this meaningful to me?
Mm-hmm.
The less you ask yourself this, the more you're going to come up with things. Because even employing such a broad term in a question about your life as concept art, this is such a huge thing. This encompasses so many different styles, so many different companies. It really means you are very vague in your thinking, and you need to get more specific. You need to, okay, concept art. What is concept art to me? Open up PureRef and download images and look at them. Images that inspire you. What do they have in common? Look at the patterns. Find what is the common thing among them, and then write that down. Put it on a list, and then ask yourself the question, what is this to me? And then, if you're still confused, you will have more directed questions. Like, you will know what to ask of somebody who is your elder or somebody who you think is wiser. You will not be going to people just, I don't know what I'm doing, please help.
Yeah. Just by asking your own questions, you lead to, I don't know, it's sort of like if you ask your own questions and then you try to solve them, that leads to better questions. Because it's sort of like, okay, what is at the core of what I'm asking? And to add on top of what you said, Flavia, it's like finding out the pattern of what you like. For me, it was also about finding out what I like to draw, because like what I hadn't considered is like, oh, I see things that I might find interesting, but I might not be interested in drawing them, and that's another thing that should be I think that should be tried out. It's like, okay, you find this interesting to look at, but do you find it interesting to draw? And then when you do that, it's sort of like, okay, that leads you to another direction of what you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah. And it sort of seeps into the other aspects of your life. If you are used to not asking yourself these questions, you will get used to looking at reference before trying to figure it out yourself. You will get used to bad habits in art. You will get used to sort of taking the easy way out and building something that might be, I don't know, less sturdy, less stable, less you. I think that's the greatest disservice you can do to yourself. Just ignoring your own thoughts, ignoring your own personality, and just being very distracted by the turmoil of the outside world. Because it's meant to distract you, so do not give in to it. If you've chosen to pursue art, then that means you're already interested in your own soul, in your own psychology, in your own feelings, in your own expression. What of this is standardized? How much can you regiment people into we all do the same things? Like, you're not a factory. You're not an art factory. You're a person. You need to know yourself before or while you create. Maybe you get to know yourself through creating, but you need to know yourself.
Yeah. It reminds me of that thing where, I forget the study, but it was they asked people what do they want to be, and in the past it used to be, they asked kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it used to be astronaut or firefighter or whatever, lawyer, doctor, and then, or even actor or something like that. And then it shifted to the most common reply was famous, but not famous for anything, just famous. And it reminds me of, because I remember kids that people would say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they would say, like, a millionaire. But that's not, that's sort of the result of something else. That's not a thing in itself. So when it's like, oh, I want to be a concept artist, what should I do? It's sort of like, oh, I want to be a millionaire, what should I do? To me, that's a strange question, because it's like, well, the millionaire part is sort of the result of doing something really well, or something that you enjoy. I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's sort of the equivalent, the mental equivalent of eating processed food and digesting processed food, something that a machine has chewed up and spit out and just putting it in your mouth for you to more easily, readily digest. But what that does is just, it makes you weaker. It sort of, I don't know, destroys your roots. It destroys your grounding. You are nothing without this processed food. If you're then sent out into the wild, let's say again, you will not know how to survive. You will not be autonomous. You will not be free.
There's a really good documentary that I watched a while, like many years ago, and then I rewatched it, and it's called Century of the Self.
Yeah. It's a good documentary.
So, and I really recommend people watch it, because it's like, if you haven't, it explains a lot about how our current generation sort of came about. And I think it's good to know these things. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed is that there's a lot of, what was it that you said, Flavia, that there's people that are very skilled and they're good at creating constructs in terms of their art, but they're not really saying anything with it.
Yeah. There's this growing trend that I've seen of empty art. Maybe it's pretty, maybe it's very, very well done, maybe it's just eye candy, but it's sort of like a pretty girl who doesn't really have anything beyond that. And just like with all beauty, it's fleeting. It will not stick around. It will be like, oh wow, great, you made a really nice picture, but it doesn't stick with me. It won't follow me over the years. It won't be something that I look back on, think, wow, that really made me think, that really made me feel this way.
Yeah, I think that's coming from a place where people aren't looking at them, just really trying to figure out what they like, what they're interested in, what does their art really mean to them. And for the people who do try, they're doing it in a weird way. There's these people that sort of, they try so hard to say something that's what they end up creating. Their art is saying, "Oh, I'm trying to say something," and then it's not honest, you know.
Yeah. If you're so busy focusing on, I don't know, creating what everyone else is creating, or chasing after a standard or industry and whatever, you're very likely to lose track of yourself, and you sort of need to be aware that, oh, I need to do personal art. I need to sort of stay connected to myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So.
Any other questions?
Yeah, let me see. How do you master perspective?
What are these master
Yeah,
things?
yeah.
I know I haven't mastered
Step by step.
Like I consider maybe Scott Robertson as a master of perspective, but
Yeah.
you don't really need to master perspective. You need to. Yeah. Okay. I wanted to talk about this. This is a good segue into a topic I wanted to mention. So. It's about I can't draw.
How do you master mastery?
Let me fill in this thing.
Go ahead.
Lasso selections. Sure. Okay. All right. So it's about this idea that you want to learn how to do something, and how do you do that? Let's say people say, "Oh, I want to be what? I want to be a what is it? Comic artist? Let's say comic artist, right?" And then they think you need to learn all these components, and then add. I don't know why they're eyeballs. You need to learn all these things, and then you put them together, and then they make a comic, right? But it's not really like that. And when people say, how much do I need to master whatever component? It's like, no, you're thinking about it wrong, because you're thinking about these components and not the end result. What you want to do is think about this first, making a comic, and then you will find you need these components, and you'll find how you need them. So, for instance, like, if I'm making a comic, well, I need to learn about paneling because I'm making a comic, and there's a script here, and it says, this happens and this, and then you're looking at that, and it's like, well, okay, so I have a page, and I have to fill this page with this script. How do I do that? And by trying it first and then failing, you'll know, like, but I don't even know how to do that. Well, try it. And what I thought about is this analogy of a mannequin. So I don't know if you've done any like 3D building. I haven't really, but I know they start with mannequins. They start with like these rough, let's say the figure is like something, I don't know. They have these bases, and not 3D as in like 3D programs, but like in the clay, when you modeling clay or whatever, sculpey. You have this like, and this is that pull thing. That's whatever. God damn it. All right, let me adjust this so it's not confusing. This thing, and then you have a base. So this is kind of the starting point. You create a structure, and this looks ugly, and it looks nothing like the finished result. And yet, this is where you need to start. You need to start with a framework that is ugly. So, like, the framework is ugly, doesn't look like the finished result. Doesn't look finished. And I feel like people are very impatient to go through this stage, and instead, maybe they've seen like a figure and it's all fleshed out, and it's like, okay, yeah, so it's like holding a sword or something, and they look at that and then they're thinking like, okay, I want to do that. I don't want to just do something like this. This doesn't look cool. This is what I want to get. Like, just imagine that was a cool drawing instead of what I've done. But okay, so what they do then is the equivalent of just taking clay, and instead of putting the clay on this mannequin, what they do is they just start to like add clay, and then okay, try to look at this and replicate this with their okay, so put some clay here, put some clay here, put some clay here, and try and get it to look like this, but it's not going to work. It's going to fall over. There's no structure underneath. So you just end up with something that eventually becomes a mess. It's like, oh yeah, there's a sword and it didn't quite stick, and tried to do something. And this is where that component thinking leads, where you're not thinking about what is the basic idea and then constructing it. I get a lot of people who sometimes say, you know, they can't do finished works, and I keep pointing them to simplify things. Like, your stick figures need work. You need work on basic proportions, and they will show me some, you know, finished paintings. And I don't think it's necessarily terrible to try finished paintings. In fact, I don't think it's a bad idea to do that. But it's a case of don't only do that. Focus more on your fundamentals. And the reality is, once you've got it to this point where it's like, oh, this is the foundation, then even though it's ugly, even though it's, you know, doesn't look like the finished thing, once you start building, you know, you can put the clay on this, and you know, it's gonna take a while before it looks good, and you'll need to practice more and more. But eventually, at least your things will look solid. They'll be on a solid form, and they won't just fall over and turn into mush on the ground because you never practiced your fundamentals. But at the same time, when I talk about fundamentals, I think it's much more important to try to do the thing you want to do and fail, and then find out what you need to learn, and then really focus on that. And don't just do one drawing, one attempt. Do a ton. Like, you can't just draw one stick figure and think, I'm done. I know stick figures. Like, can you manipulate that figure? Can you do them in any pose, any angle? Because that's what you should be getting good at, or at least until it's to the point that you need, you know. So anyway, that is my rant on the subject.
That's a good rant.
Yeah.
I struggle a lot with accuracy on my small tablet. Any ideas to improve?
Well, this is a pretty easy one. I'm not sure how long this person has been practicing with that tablet, so it could just take time. But I think I mentioned this before. Go on to a life drawing website. I think it was Pixel Lovely or something like that. And what I did basically to get used to it was just that I would just do life drawing sessions, and I would do the quick ones, like the 30-second, the 2 minutes, and then maybe a maximum of 5 or 10 minutes. And what that basically did for me was that I was just so, because of the time restraint, I was just so focused on the drawing that I didn't have time to worry about whether or not I was accurate. And then if you do 2 weeks of this, you'll basically get used to the tablet. And then
That's a good answer.
Also to the people that always ask the master questions, how to become master and this and that. Like if you end up being a master, there's not much difference between what you did before and what you do now. Only difference is you're better at it, but like the time you spend and the things you do. And not on top of that, once you're once you're master artist, you also see like flaws in a professional very high level. So even then, you still see things to improve on, and if you don't enjoy this whole process, why assume that in the end, at the very last 1%, you'll suddenly enjoy every little bit of it? So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Mm. How do you know when it's time to move on and stop hanging up over the basics?
That's a difficult thing to say because I'm still developing. I don't know. It's difficult because there's always something to improve on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like I suppose maybe it's maybe for me the exception was the anatomy on the arms because I went overboard on that. But I just went crazy on that. But I don't know. I suppose it would be a bad thing if you're working on one thing. For example, for me, I was only working on the arms, and then.
But how did you start doing the arms? Like, what made you go into that?
It started off with I was doing anatomy, so I was doing the rib cage, the abdomen, the legs, and then those ones they were difficult, but I was able to get them fairly quickly, but the arms were just a monster to get through. So then I said to myself, oh, it's not acceptable that this is so, well, not difficult per se, but just the fact that I wasn't able to get it. So then I just went full hardcore and I just did arms. Then now I can do, they're not as precise as what they were, but I can do them pretty quickly. But the problem with that, I suppose, is that I focus too much on that at the expense of everything else. But I don't know. It's really difficult to say because it just depends on what you're going for. If you're going for accuracy, then I got accuracy, and then I was able to move on. Now I can do it anytime I want. But oh, jeez, this is difficult. Yeah, I'm not really sure how to answer that one. It just I guess it just depends on what you're going for. It's like, okay, if you're going after perspective and then you want really precise perspective, then you can do that, and then
Sometimes I wonder though, how accurate are the demands? Like, oh, you say you want accurate perspective, but is it really required for the picture you want to make?
I guess yeah. I suppose maybe that really narrows it down because then it's just like, oh, what job are you doing? What are you going after? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like how much.
For me, I needed to get anatomy because I was doing a lot of human figures, and then because I wasn't adequate, I needed to really focus on that. And then for perspective, well, I need to do scenes, so then I had to practice on perspective. Maybe the point to stop is when you're actually starting to harm yourself, because like I could imagine, because I think you guys told me this at one point. I could keep going deeper and deeper into arms, and just like getting it right, and then I could go on forever, and then I could spend decades trying to get accurate. But then but that's all I would be doing.
You would be drawing a cartoony character with a super ripped, like, rendered arm.
Yeah, it'd just be a cartoon with a completely realistic arm.
You're the arm guy.
Yeah.
It turned out you are the arm guy, but now you have no arms.
My arms
You
are
really
gone.
went deep into arms, just not the way we thought you would.
Yeah, I'm the arm guy. It's not in the way that I'd think. Yeah. I don't know. So maybe that's what it is. It's just like when you're obsessing too much over something, and then you're not really getting that much of a result. Maybe that's when it's time to stop, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Osjay, with freelance, how did you go about doing that? Because you basically, you're doing a bit of what I was talking about, where some people talk about doing a comic, but you just started doing it.
Yeah, so basically, I just had the story that I wanted to do, no matter how it's gonna look, and I think like trying to have with the first story in mind to be the best thing you've ever done, without having anything done and without knowing how much it takes and how much of it's really hard to do 32 pages, and the only way to learn that is to do 32 pages. So no matter what, you don't get around doing it. And I always wonder, with very skilled people, that why don't they do their own stories if they're so good? But they might not do one because they don't enjoy drawing 32 pages with one consistent style. And what I just told myself was, like, if I want to be a like successful web comic artist, mangaka, comic book artist, whatever, in 5 years, well, then I can pretend I'm one right now and start doing that, and look if I actually like it, if I actually can endure the time and effort that I put into that. So for once, I think I was able to do that because I don't have any like currently financial like problems or anything. So it's always, you can't tell everyone, yeah, just start doing it. But if you have the time, then there's really no reason in not starting to do your thing, because if that's your dream job, wouldn't you like to do it in your free time as well? So that's my thought on that, and that's why I just started and realized how difficult this can be. So yeah, you know more once you've tried it yourself. So that's basically what you guys are saying this whole time. It's not really that terrible to ask questions, but like yeah, go for it. Just do it. Like, shut up, said it. Yeah. But I hope that helped. Like that was like my thought process, I think. I really want just to tell a story, and that's all there is to. It's yeah. That's also, that can also be the difficult part if you not look into money and stuff like that, because like Flavia mentioned that drawing and art is very personal, and when you start and yeah, it can, since you're so personal into it, it's hard to be professional and always keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've got like 9 minutes left. There's a few questions that sort of relate to the same thing, and I figured maybe we could address the topic, the overall idea of it. It's about applying what you study, applying the reference or the life drawings or the whatever to your imagination work and making that connection. How do you make that connection between imagination work and reference work? Like if your reference work is going to look really good, then you switch to imagination and it sucks, you get discouraged. How do you bypass that?
For me, it was just practice. Like I drew something over and over and over again. Like with the arms, for example, and going back to the arms thing, I had a lot of reference and I was looking at it, and what I did was I would look at it and then I would do my muscle memory first. I would make sure that my muscles were used to drawing a specific type of motion. So then I would have the reference open and then I would try to copy it. And then, because that way, the more I drew it, the more natural it would become for me. I would figure out shortcuts. I would start to see the shapes of the muscles instead of just the overall thing, like all the strands of the muscles. I would just see the shape of it. And then that simplified things for me. So then it made it easier.
So you're basically trying to stay aware of what you're doing while you're doing it.
In a way, because when I'm just trying to copy it, it's not, it's like, because the real thought came once when I turned the reference off. That's when the real thinking and the shortcuts started coming out, because I drew it without the reference, I saw the flaws, and then when I opened the reference back up, I started trying to see, okay, what can I simplify? What can I make it easier for me to draw so that I'm not using as much resources as when I'm trying to draw from memory. And that's sort of how I approached it. I approached it with muscle memory, and then I approached it with conscious thinking. And then the more I did of that, the easier it became for me to just sort of draw arms by memory. So yeah, that's how I did it. And I think that sort of applies for everything as well. Eventually I just started to observe things. You know, I just sort of, okay, what is the pattern of how this thing works? What's the shortcut of creating this fabric or this piece of anatomy, such and such.
For me, it helped seeing dead people.
Seeing live reference, right?
Yeah, it's like, oh, go do life drawings, but we went to this crypt where Capuchin monks were buried, and before that, I wasn't really connecting the two as much. but just to see the bones and to see the femurs and the skin mapping over them from more than one angle, and it's like you'll never have a problem with your model moving around or going away at a time.
I think that's.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Because I was with a bigger group and I was feeling pretty guilty because I don't think they were planning on sticking around for that long. I had to draw really quickly and just have that sort of desperation to get everything down as quickly as I could. And then afterwards, when I came back and I started doing things again, it was like, yeah, this knowledge sort of got imprinted into my brain. So now, when I was drawing figures and when I was doing stuff from both imagination and reference, I keep remembering how the tendons were, how the kneecap was behaving, how the tibia was looking, just stuff like that.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that's really good about just seeing things live. Because like when you're looking up reference on the internet, you only get a 2D image. You don't get to see how. You don't get, like, you might have an idea of how the material works, but you can't turn it, you can't feel it with your fingers, you can't really just feel how hard the shape is or how hard the material is, and that's something that's really important.
You can't do that with the dead people leave. Probably ask you to leave.
I'll just take a femur with me. Oh, this is for reference.
Yeah. But here's the thing, it's sort of like when you have it live in front of you, not only do you, if you don't have access to the sensory thing where you can't touch and feel the object, then at least you have visuals. You can see how it changes in whatever lighting you want it. You can see it in whatever angle you want it to be in. So that creates a fuller image. That creates more things for you to absorb. And I guess for you, what happened for you, Flavia, was that because you didn't have a lot of time, your brain went into overdrive to try to absorb the information, right?
Yeah, it did. And it was such a positive experience that it really helped cement things for me. Because I've seen dead people before. And it's like, yes, there is an interest for the anatomy. There is an interest for this, but because I wasn't really making connections as quickly, sort of diluted knowledge, whereas this one was like a crash course in joints and rib cages and just how the way skulls are tilted and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think that there's two ways of well, there's probably more ways, but there's like two. For me, I feel so. There's one of the big things is that there's two ways of learning. There's urgency and there's agency. Agency is when you, like for me, for example, I practiced the arms on my own over and over and over again. That's me specifically doing, and then over time I was able to absorb the things that I need. The other one is urgency, whereas like for example, for you, Flavia, you had to absorb as much as you can from the corpses because like you weren't going to get another chance. And for other people, it might be the urgency.
What a way of putting it, Bob. What a way of putting it.
Oh, what? The corpses?
Absorb as much as I could from the corpses.
Well, you have to, right? Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like desperation sort of forces you to come up with solutions, and that goes back to in a way the how people just like they look for they ask questions from other people too readily. They're too easy to try to look for solutions elsewhere. If you place yourself in a situation where you have no choice but to find solutions, you will find solutions.
True.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best advices. Yeah. Urgency is good.
Crap. What is your person doing?
What person?
Your guy who skipped all his leg days.
It's just cheating shit. I don't know. Whatever.
Oh, is he a chef or magician?
Yeah, he's everything you want him to be.
Everything you want him to be.
All right, we're done, right?
Yeah, I think we are.
All right. So, thanks everybody for joining us this whatever day. I'm planning for the future for the streams. I was thinking of doing them on the last Saturday of every month around. Let's see, 10 p.m. my time is like 12 p.m. I guess Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. We started a bit later today, but roughly 2 hours before this one was, or an hour before. No, yeah, an hour and a half.
Yeah.
No, not then now. Then this one started. This one started an hour and a half ago.
Yeah.
So 2 hours before this one started. I don't know. And then, yeah, so that way it'll make it more, easy, so you don't have to worry about missing them. You can just look for the last Saturday of the month, and I'll try and do it then. So I want to go ahead and thank my special guests, Bob, the Eldritch Hater. Oh no, you didn't even color dodge.
Yeah.
OzJ, the
Yes.
freelance artist.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Flavia. Wow. And all you fine meatbags out there.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
So,
Bye bye.